Dayıların dayısı.
Bilirim abi ismi.
Nasılsın, iyi misin?
Senle 2 sene önce yine bu sarı koltukta buluştuğumuzda
Anlatacağı konu da şu: düşük maliyetli küçük ekiplerle büyük proje yaratmak.
sen şimdi hangisini savunacaksın onu söyle
Abi
bana.
bugün evet, ben de tabii ki 2007'yi savunacağım.
Sen 2007'yi savundun. Shot fire! Shot fire!
Game Jam, Fall Jam sizin için bir Steam oyunu yayınlamak için temel olabilir.
İnanılmaz büyük bir fırsat yani bu hakikaten.
Artık herhalde PlayStation 6'yı görmeyeceğiz.
Şu anda 9 liraya çıktı. 9,5'a doğru gidiyor.
Gidiyor.
Yani ona da gider. Ah, kafa rahat.
Güzel. Evet.
Welcome again. This session will have Faruk Akıncı, co-founder of Fiber Games, and Enis Kirazoğlu, business development director, and they will talk about setting up a game initiative as an influencer. I would like to invite them to the floor now. Welcome. Hello. You can start when you're ready. If you need anything, I'm here. Thank you, Sardar. Enis, welcome again. Hello, bro. How are you? You're doing well? It's a pleasure to see you. We can see you more in game development, atmospheres, environments. This should be a start. Actually, you gave up on your relief, you gave up on your comforts, and when your career was going well, you suddenly started a business in gaming. I would like to go back in time a little bit, and I want to talk about the start of the story, the beginning of the story. Among the YouTube content creators, you are one of the most successful ones. You're in my top 3, actually. What's the reason for that? It's because I follow you. It's because I'm following your steps, and visionary people like you watch me. Actually, I'm surprised as well. People are watching it, and I don't have any reason that I can name. I still wonder, though. The gaming culture in Turkey has developed recently in 5 years. For instance, we used to meet in multiplayer games. Sometimes we used to gather in mobile games. And when you look all around Turkey, the mobile game players are more. And it is not millions, I know it. But if 5 people knew yesterday, now 1,000 people know it. For instance, people who know the name of Kojima in 2000s is less than today. It's less than people who know it today. And if I have contributed to it, it's a pleasure. You play something, you see something, and you want to share it. You want people to share this emotion, and you want to have discussions on it. So more the population grows, more the group grows, more enjoyable it is. I don't know the reason, so I don't have a question, but it's a pleasure if you consider me as a successful streamer. The reason I find your content good is that I see the stories, and though I read in years, you can still teach me with your content. So I find it really valuable. You can give the stories of the games, and you can deliver it to the final consumer. I hope it goes like that. I thought you would say shit, but and continue. How did you decide on developing games? Actually, it was a really organic decision. It wasn't there in one day, but I have been having this discussion for a long time, and we are brothers for a long time. And I have my brother who is in software, and he said, I am learning something about game creation. There was a really basic game engine, and he used that to make an adventure game. He then started to use Unity, and it wasn't just enthusiasm, it was something serious. And I said, if you want to learn something, let's do it together. So we wanted to make a mobile game. Well, it wasn't something serious in the first place. We said we would do it and one day we would launch it. Then it became 1 year, 2 years, and we used to look at it in our extra time. But then at the end, there was something created. And of course, we learned a lot. He learned something, I learned things. He is working in a studio full time now. So it's his profession now. So we said we can go on it, we can go on doing it, and we decided on making a PC game project. And nothing was full time again. We would look at it 2-3 hours in the evenings, and then we said we want to make it mainstream. And in the last 6 months, we were more interested in it. So it is something that recently started to make something serious. We decided 4 years ago when you asked, but our interest was more focused on it, our attention was more focused on it in the recent months. So production has different stages. What was the most difficult thing? Where was Furkan stuck in terms of creativity or production? What kind of solutions did you come up with? The biggest problem was money, of course. The biggest challenge is capital. It is not only about having a PC. When you develop independently, for instance, you have opinions and you want to realize them. To realize these opinions, I need to know coding. I need to be able to make a game over a game engine, or I should work with someone who knows it. Okay, I have my brother, he's working for free. We are partners, but we need a designer. We need a sound guy, or I need to learn them. You should sit and learn them, or you should have shared projects, or you should employ some people on salary. So when you want to start something with partnerships, you can stop in the middle. Everyone is enthusiastic. Everyone says, if you do it, I will be there. But after a month, they disappear. That was the case for most of the people. We would share it 40%. We would share the profit. My perspective was not about profit. I will go in detail, but I wanted to make a production. Since I did not have capital, I had partnerships, but in Turkey, there are problems with going partnerships. It is really difficult for the youngsters, independent youngsters, because you can do it for a year, and after a year and a half, people can disappear because they might have financial problems, they might have to work full-time. So it was really difficult to make a team. That's why I put some capital in the last months. I had to do it, and not as partners, but as employers, I start to work with people, and we want to cover some distance like that. But that was the most difficult part. Many people joined and left. Yes, I heard about this a lot. We have been through the same once or twice, because the expectations, financial expectations, and they are given, but we share these transparently, but sometimes we crash the wall in the production phase, because you talk about everything, but sometimes there are problems on the way. So it's a shared problem. On the production phase, everyone thinks like we should look at it, and if I don't like it, I will quit as early as possible. But it is not easy to detect that intention. You're a huge team, and employing people, making something together and making profit is not that important, because people with some deposits don't want to work in Turkey in these conditions, because they want to make profits. For instance, you employ people to 20,000 liras of salary, and soon it will be around $1,000. I don't want to give some figure because it is continuously changing. This exchange rate is not valid for us. Okay, so that's the case. People want to go abroad, and some companies like Indie, some people there cannot stay together because people are fed up with it. And since they like the project, even though they like the project, they might leave the country, and you cannot argue with them. You cannot go with dreams till the end. In the foreign countries, there are huge salaries, of course, compared to the Turkish lira. Actually, it is not a huge salary for them, but if they are working remotely, it can be a huge salary, and because it is money in Turkey. Actually, we gave the answer of the previous question because we have a love for Poland because they came up with the most valuable game brand in Europe. So my question is, apart from the exchange rate, what are the obstacles against Turkey on the road of being like Poland? What can we do to create more IP with more creativity apart from the exchange rate? Actually, the answer of the question is hidden in the question itself, as you said. This is my own analysis about the games industry in Turkey. Most of the reasons lie under economy, of course, but the gaming industry in Turkey did not prove itself, did not prove its seriousness. So most of the countries are small. Tailworks, for instance, is the most known with Mons and Blaze series. It is an extraordinary example, but everyone in Turkey is chasing hot money, liquidity, because the investor wants to fold its money in 2 or 3 years. But first, for a console game producer, it is not possible. You put the money and 2 years, you cannot get the return of investment. There should be a system settled and there should be an organization. Since they have higher money circulation and investors make more money in short time, they can do it. Hyper casual has more potential compared to a PC game. That's why all Turkey is like a huge mobile game producer. 40 million of people create mobile games. That's the perception in my mind. Poland started really early. It is a similar culture, actually. For instance, economically, they haven't surpassed us drastically, and they have pirate gaming culture because they could not export games and they could not sell it. So both countries learned about games with pirate games, but there is the development culture, and which is deeply rooted. And they started early. They started being enthusiastic earlier. So there was an information pool, and I'm talking about the 80s and the beginning of the 90s. Even though it was small in extent, they started developing things, but we started developing really late. And when they accumulate the know-how and information pool, it would be difficult to reach them. And because of the exchange rate and economy, the gap became huge. And Poland became a country with great studios, with great projects, TV projects, and they have many studios. For instance, I see a game and I say it's really good, and you don't know the name of the business, Flying Wild Talks, let's say, and they are from Poland, I guess. So they did Shadow U series as well. So even though you haven't heard of them, there are many companies who proved themselves. I don't know if we can do it. I don't know if people can leave the hot money and if they will switch to PC games, because I don't think that will be the case. They can make more profit on mobile games, but we have more companies compared to the past. Even though it is not as big as Mountain Blaze, there should be more exemplary businesses. We don't have such yet. There are good trials, but we cannot provide people with platform where they can prove themselves, and we cannot make the investors look at that area because we need more good practices, successful examples, but we don't have them yet. We can say that there will be, but we are not there yet. Another way would be having successful mobile game companies investing in IP with their own capital, but they don't do it. Yes, that might be a way, but they shouldn't be divided in many investment funds. The board should be taking decisions on its own, but I still believe there will be some. But we should get through this economic recession, economic crisis. And most large gaming companies build on unsuccessful stories. These unsuccessful stories are paid as time, but we don't have any time or money right now. And bringing people who are knowledgeable about this become more and more expensive. But when we look from the investor's perspective, when I question them why they are more quick, it is obvious that they see the valuations, they see military coups, and they're not sure about the security of their money. But the digital area does not have any border. So the investment can be designed on a longer term, and it can return on a better timetable. They shouldn't be afraid of making it suitable for a bubble. They shouldn't be afraid of investing in game studios. Actually, the advancement of technology will probably become a relief for us. Producing something is not easy today. You need many people. I just said it. But as the technology advances, for instance, Unreal Engine Match, they have the demo, and we see the successes of the game engines. They are trying to provide you with some package, and they want to make it like a prepared package. These will be things that will accelerate us, but we have another problem. In terms of vision, we have a problem. If you want to develop a good game, I don't know about movie, but for the games, it should have a good consumption. You should be consuming it in a certain level to have a relaxed development process. For instance, you want to make a roguelite game, and when you look at the roguelite games, you should be aware of them. You should be playing 5, 10 Roll Night games. And that's why you don't have to discover America once more. Because the system you will try might be something that was tried and bored of. The economic bottleneck leads people not investing in game studios. If I want 10 indie games, it makes like 1,000 liras. If people cannot consume, their game development vision might be narrowed as well. I always come up with this example. People who are really enthusiastic come up with demo. And on Unreal, they want to make Max Payne-like games. Max Payne was developed in 2001. And in 2021, you can't do something as successful as Max Payne. But you want to try it because you consumed it. You try that because you saw that. We are flying high, and that's also saddening. We have enthusiasm, but we are thinking so big that the results might be saddening for them. Some small steps and different types and independent games are things that we are missing out in Turkey. I agree with it. And building on it, I want to say something. I know that you are a person who always asks, can we do it? Let's see, let's try it. I looked at some projects you work on. Let's test our talents. Let's try to look at the partners. I know you're at that stage, but when you think about it, can you talk about the release dreams you have and how you do it? Of course, if you can't do it, you can't do it, but still, let me still tell me. I will probably go bankrupt, let me tell you. I'm serious. Because I'm not in a healthy trade. My profit is coming from video creation, content creation, and I'm not investing it back on YouTube. I'm investing it on gaming. The upgrades in camera, a good studio, having producers, those will be the steps a standard YouTuber will take. but I'm not investing in the system about YouTube production, but we are always thinking about the designer and designer's salary and all that. Maybe that's the magic. I believe that I will go bankrupt. Of course I don't hope so. But what I dream in Turkey is not something really big. I always have small dreams. I take small steps. I do things that I believe I can do. My first goal is to finishing the product we have now. After that, I want to be able to sell it to some certain extent. Of course, I'm talking about abroad. I don't understand Turkey's purchase behavior. Maybe they are not interested in it and they want to buy it since they like it. They like me. If they are not interested in the game, they might buy it to support me because they like me. But that might be a disadvantage for me. If I can sell it on foreign countries, I will continue with the second game. Of course, we will talk with our teams. Maybe our project will be rejected. I'm not a dictator here. I'm democratic in my team. So our plan is to sell it to a certain extent. And if we cannot, we will go smaller. It will be my capital again, but I will try 3-4 times. And economically, right now, if we stay here at this point, if we stay here, I will continue to dream. If we don't stop at this point in terms of economy, I don't know. Yes, we are warned right now. Long term is difficult. My purpose is having AA game like $10 billion with $10 billion budget. Of course, that would be a dream, but this is not something that I can do tomorrow. Maybe we need 10 years or 20 years. Different topics, different business models, but everyone looks at game studios, and that was thanks to Peak Games. Yes, we can say like I have 8 years to go. Is it military service? Kojima will stop making games, and my dream is when I'm Kojima years old, I will be able to develop games. I think you saw it. Kojima is in 8 Piscos, and he said, I believe I'm getting older, and I was thinking of ending my life. I don't know how many games I will be able to develop because they can have 2 games in 10 years. It is difficult. Yes, it's a great problem. I think there will be a crisis in the industry. It is on the verge of crisis, but I don't know when the crisis will explode. We always say some shares went down, but the sales raised. If an equivalent game to Gator reached that sales amount, they would go crazy. What I cannot understand is that the companies should say stop at that point, because you do something for 5 years, and if you fail, it's huge problem. I don't know, they have problems with money, but they have problems with time. They say we can background $2 million, but we should not lose 5 stars in rating. So people don't want to take risks and they are hesitant. Yes, we see the results of it. The previous CEO of PlayStation said something similar. We don't know until when we can continue like this. A solution might be like this, and so Sony said this. Uncharted, Lost Legacy, Miles Morales were the middle games. They don't offer anything new in terms of technology, but they have new stories. So they can continue creating games like that in terms of story games. But I don't know how sustainable it would be. The sustainability and the financial security of the business are provided with these middle games, and they can provide with some part of the budget, provide for some part of the budget. Being an influencer provides a pro in gaming industry. Can you say that? This current mass, this current followers you have, do they make it easier to make your initiative more popular. Yes, they do. Of course, they make it more popular. For instance, if I wasn't a renowned person, I would think as to how declare this, how to make it popular in Turkey. So it is easier for me. When I say I do something, some people will hear about it. This is something positive for me, but it is not sustainable. You cannot go on depending on this. I cannot say no matter what I create, it will be popular, because if you don't make something good, people will be curious, they will look at it and they will not like it. They will do it another time, but they will not do it for the third time. So it will have a negative effect. And the problem here is that I'm a game critic. I'm talking about games. This is not good. This is terrible and all that. And my followers will always say, you criticize people, but what's your product? Because criticizing games and developing games are really different. This is the same for the cinema. Being a good critic do not guarantee that you will create great movies, and you are sometimes lost in your own game.
And this is the thing dangerous. Of course, it has advantage, and this the dangerous thing is maybe because you lose your trust in us, because people say that don't trust these people, that don't trust this person. I don't know what will happen, but in terms of getting out of the Turkey, of course, being an influencer has an advantage. But the problem is that if you want to engage in a commerce in a game, if you want to create a game and then create the other ones again over and over again, Turkey is not enough for you. So what am I going to do, considering the exchange rate of dollars? So I need to make it 3 times more in terms of the price of the product that I delivered. So not to mention the costs, the other costs. Normally in the gaming industry, salaries in Turkey is dollar based, but we don't mention this. Of course, maybe, for example, the art director of yours does not have to work in Turkey. Of course, he or she can work outside. He or she can work abroad. Of course, when you are offering salary to her or him, the salary should be dollar based. It should be identical to the amount of money given in other countries. Sorry for, as I speak, I feel heart-wrenched. Are you okay? Yes, I was ill and I recovered, but I'm speaking so fast and long. Sometimes I have a dry cough. So sorry for this inconvenience. I'm really, thankfully, I came all the way up to this date as a YouTuber. It's not dry cough, but a cough resulted in caused by the exchange rate maybe. We talked about the indie game developers, but one of our friends made an inside joke about it. To sum up, so my question is, what is the thing? What is the support do you really require apart from finance? What do you need? Yeah. All right, let's cut to the chase. Oh, by the way, the brand of my bottle of water was censored. My censorship by Zoom. Okay, these are the topic that I'm really interested. But the problem here, I don't know how to access to the world. First things first. So this is one of the problems encountered by independent developers. You do something bad or good. The problem is, okay, I finished it. So how do I present this to the world? Because in Teams there are many games. How are you gonna show yourself up among all of these games? So someone should tell me. Okay, we looked at your product. Your product is viable for Thailand market, for example, and can be released at that certain time. And we will make an advertisement of your product with these influencers in order to access the target audience of this and that. So all of these things are really critical. So all of these critical points are not known in Turkey very well, because everyone is trying to do the trial and error methods. Of course, there are some people trying, but everything is in the beginning phase. The biggest deficiency here in Turkey is, I think, there is no institution who can guide them. Because first you need to do, what you need to do is to show your product to the publishers abroad, because I think they receive more than thousands of projects. Normally, if you send them an email, they will not even look at it. And it's really hard to sharp your son up among all of these. So once a product is done, maybe the developer can understand why that product was not sold, reason. But you do something, you don't know why it was not sold, why it was sold. It was because dislike or something. You are trying to come up with a product in which you spend a few years, but you don't see any results, which is really saddening. One of the prior issues of mine is to know how to access to the world, and we need a guidance for this. So considering that the requirements are systematically handled, new connections should be made. And of course, this should be reported to the game owner. By the way, as game dev, we place importance to this. We prioritize this. We have tried this for a long time. We tried to work on some releases of some games, and I hope we will help the game developers to present their intellectual properties to the road. We made the necessary connections, and I hope we will be one of the solution partners in Turkey in this regard. And I'd like to announce that I have just established Kirazoğlu Gaming Studio. Kirazoğlu Art will be the name, and a branch of Electronic Arts in Turkey. By the way, I will get 90% commission out of it. Maybe, I don't know, about 10% left. Yeah, you're right. I hope you can fill this deficiency up. Okay, yeah, I can. Maybe you can call it EKG Games, can we? But it's not. It's in the game motto, isn't it? Okay, let's have some questions and answer them. Can Göksel says, can Kickstarter be a solution for those who suffers from the exchange rate and capital problem? And also, you know, in Turkey, there is Turkcell Arı Kovanı funding systems. But we don't see any local applications resorting to these solutions. Well, speaking of Turkcell, I haven't seen any projects getting into the market. And by the way, for Kickstarter, there's a big crowd, and you need to do another work on that. I've seen a few, you know, who was successful, but just a few of them. They need to do another PR thing, which is another marketing method. Yes, 3 or 5 years ago, because of the highest number of applications, a new communication method is needed, actually. Of course, there is some funding systems under the leadership of Turkey, but there is a great density there. So, and there are many entrepreneurship apart from gaming, from biomedical applications to fintech. There are many projects applied, and gaming is one of them, especially as an intellectual property. And by the way, off the record, the investors there, the people who provide funds, should have a knowledge about gaming. That's a problem, actually. If you're talking about fund-related thing or institutions, describing the concept of gaming is so challenging, especially explaining them an idea is really hard. So Can Göksel also said, roguelike game style, game type is one of the most popular one in Turkey and also in the gaming industry. What do you think is the reason that is not what do you think is the reason it's not followed very closely in Turkey? Roguelike games is interesting, actually. You know, in past it was least sold games, one of the least sold games in Steam. Because in one of the previous meetings and events, you know, they tried to come up with an excuse why they couldn't sell. But recently there was a high tendency in terms of sellings of these games. I'm not going to go in detail, and I'm going to go in detail in some reports. I've seen some agents selling in Turkey. I mean, there are some people trying to do this, but as I said, we don't have many players playing games in different kinds of types of games. So we have a wide distance between us and the developers in abroad. But we don't have independent players. The number of independent players in Turkey is not enough yet. So it's really hard to provide them. Maybe you can give the cows the excuse of being a poor. But I don't remember that in the past was sold in past. Of course, it is now expensive. I have no doubts on that. But in the past, it was not because of its cost. We have anonymous attendee asking that I agree in terms of game trials. How do you think about the attendance participation of the game developers in these events? Did you start to follow these events? Yes, I participate in many and I am also watching the specific speeches and some events, especially speeches from abroad, the things that they place importance on while developing games. So all of the things cannot show you the trajectory that you need to be in, the path that you need to follow. But of course, if it did, would happen different level. So, but at some point, it can broaden your horizons. So I've seen some examples, and I was really surprised. For example, the pricing speech really broadened my horizon. I learned that there is a bar, and some games are considered bad because of other council. So I was really surprised. Because in Turkey, as you know, cheaper the better. But for example, there was a company, but once they increased the price of the product is sold more, which is really interesting. Of course, you got my point. So it's not maybe the examples, valid examples, but we learned that there's a psychological bar on this. So I didn't know about this. I think it was really precious for me. Serhat Uzun says, now we know the cost of game development and lots of money invested. Sometimes, because of this, some game developers do the same as they did before. Do you think the risk-taking companies will make another games and feature new games? In Turkey, once a company does a successful job, they make use of it so much that it dies. But they don't have the awareness that they cannot go again after years. If your product is not sold, you need to access new players. That's the fact. So this will be determined by the things we like and we dislike. Every company is trying to get a fast result, and as a result, they have the tendency to create the same game using a similar game using the same engine. So they don't have they're not prone to create new things, which is extremely risky. But for example, Ubisoft, of course, is doing another approach. Sometimes you lose the reputation of your brand, and you don't have energy to create the new one. Okay, last questions. Ali Mete Koca. Do you think it'll be better to move with one single team, or get in a team and learn something and create new things? I haven't heard such things before, which I think this is really hard to answer. I think the environment you're working in can create a value for you, maybe can create a contribution for it. And you should continue doing that. You should continue being a part of this. So, for example, the CV of a person who changes the company so fast might create a different perception. I don't know the point of view of companies, to my experience, but if you ask me, if you are satisfied with the environment that we are working in, you need to go all the way up to the final with the company. I think nice answer. Your answer was really great. Yes, especially if you are in the beginning of your career, you should not think only about the money. The team which is accustomed to play with each other are more likely to create better products. Thank you very much, Enis Kirazoğlu. I hope this was really valuable for you as well. It was insightful for me. I would like to thank our attendees for participation. We try to answer the questions as much as possible, and we are really excited to see Enis Kirazoğlu's new studio. Don't expect too much, by the way. I'm not gonna create Far Cry. Thank you very much. See ya.